I'm in my high school's bands class. I play the flute. There was this one kid who played the tuba. Let's call him Quentin. Quentin seemed like a typical nerdy band kid. He was short, wore glasses, and always smelled a bit off. I did go out of my way to be nice to him, since he seemed like he was lonely and didn't really talk to anyone else in the class. That was the biggest mistake of my life. When I did talk to him, Quentin was obviously not the best at social interactions. He wouldn't stop bringing up Reddit-type memes like Keanu Reeves and World War II memes. He was like a walking Reddit stereotype. Still, I indulged his taste because I felt bad for him. I stopped going out of my way to talk to him when he started not so subtly flirting with me. At first, he seemed like a typical own the libtards conservative, but that oddly seemed to change when I told him I was a leftist. He legit started following leftist Instagram accounts and reposting their posts on his story. He would go up to me randomly and ask if I read theory, which I have obviously, but he couldn't name any that he's read. He even got in a vocal argument with some conservative-leaning kid over something stupid, just so I could hear him argue on my side. As if that would somehow make me fall in love with him, lol. Quentin would not leave me alone, so one of my friends told him to knock it off. One day in class, he asked me out, in front of everyone. He said, "I know you like me back. You want to go on a date?" I have absolutely no idea how he got the idea that I liked him back. I told him no thank you, but this didn't stop him. My aforementioned friend, who was sitting next to me, said, "She said no thank you." Quentin glanced at him, merely saying, "I know you're the only reason she's saying no." When asked what he meant by this, he said, "It's obvious you and all her other friends are just jealous of her. That's why you're forcing her to pretend not to be into me, because you can't handle the thought of her having a boyfriend. That's why you reported me for harassment and she didn't. My mom works for the PTA, you know." I actually kind of laughed at the absurdity of this, and my friend did too. Quentin took us not immediately shutting him down as confirmation that he was right. He left saying, "I'll find a way to your heart, eventually." He texted me later that night asking me out again, which of course I turned down. He kept saying things like, "You don't have to keep pretending for them, I know you're really into me." Eventually I blocked him, hoping this would get the message to him, but of course, it didn't. When I came to school the next morning, I was greeted with him yelling at my friend for forcing her to block me. They almost got in a full-on physical fight, which surprised me because Quentin is about 5'7" and skinny, and there's no way he could take my buff 5'10" male friend on in a fight. A few days later, a guy I'd had a crush on for a while texted me. He says he got my number from my friend and apologised if he came off as creepy, but he really wanted to see me. Of course, I was happy to do this. Not only because I liked him, but also because I figured having a boyfriend beside Quentin would get rid of his illusion that my friends are the reason I'm not giving him the time of day. Although, I was a bit worried Quentin would react badly to this, but I reassured myself that he couldn't really do anything since all my friends know about him. We decided to meet up in our local park. I noticed he was taking a while to show up when I got a tap on the shoulder. It was Quentin. I immediately froze and asked him what he was doing there. He told me, "Just enjoying the outdoors, what are you doing here?" I told him I was meeting up with a guy and that he'd be there any minute. "Nolan, right?" That was the name of the guy I was meeting. "How did you know?" I asked him. I was starting to get creeped out. He held up his phone with my texts on it. Quentin had been pretending to be Nolan the whole time. I immediately asked him what the fuck he was doing, and he said, "It's okay. This way you can finally confess your feelings for me." "What do you mean?" "Your friends aren't here. They can't force you to say no this time. Come on, I know how you really feel about me. Just say it." I told him in no uncertain terms that I was not interested in him at all and never would be. But this still didn't convince him. He still thought that this was somehow my friend's doing. And that deep down I really did have feelings for him. He just kept pestering me over and over, saying I didn't have a logical reason to turn him down. Eventually, I just left and got into my car. He tried following me to my car, but I thankfully was able to get in and lock the door before he tried any funny business. The next day, I tried reporting him to the principal, but once again, they said there was nothing they could do since he hadn't actually touched me or broken any laws or school rules. The day I got a text from one of my friends with a link to a Reddit account. I'm not going to link it because it might violate Reddit rules, but there was no way it wasn't Quentin's. It was chock full of posts on advice. subreddits on how to get a girl to like you back if her friends are forcing her not to, along with complaints about women not being attracted to short men. One of the posts was even asking if it's a good idea to catfish a girl in order for her to safely confess her feelings to him. My blood turned cold reading this. Even though everyone on those subs was telling him he was in the wrong, he refused to listen and just called everyone who disagreed with him, which was pretty much everyone, a troll. Then came graduation. I was hoping he'd have finally let go of this obsession with me after the park, but alas. When my name was called up, as I was getting my diploma, I heard him yell, "My name, I love you." I got a major second-hand embarrassment from this, as did pretty much everyone else there, I'm sure. After the ceremony was over, I saw him yelling at his parents saying, "I don't want to talk anymore tonight. My night's been ruined already." They were begging him to at least talk to his relatives who travelled all the way from out of state to see him, but he just stormed off crying. Like he expected me to just jump into his arms. This happened 18 years ago, before I had access to cell phone and internet. When I was 15, I had walked from the hospital alone to a bus stop. I knew I had at least 15 minutes to wait and didn't look forward to it, when a man in his mid-30s started walking beside me. He was uncomfortably close, but I was young and thanks to my upbringing, avoided conflict with adults like plague. So I decided not to offend him and just bear with it, telling myself he's just walking in the same direction. And he was, but not to take a bus, as I soon found out. Once on the bus stop, where we were all alone, the guy started talking to me, opening with questions about bus schedule, which was on the display behind him. I stayed rather passive in the conversation, only giving polite nods and yes or no where it was expected, and he probably liked it, because he perked up and entered almost a manic-like state of happiness, talking about his life and job and everything. Gradually, he started talking about how he's unable to find a girlfriend and how he's watching his neighbours who slighted him, and writing everything down to get them later. He had a good chuckle at that. The alarm went off in my head at that. I was very much used to peers complaining about not being able to find a girlfriend, so I didn't know much about the incel stuff. The bus was now approaching and it became clear I was going to board it and he was not. He snatched my ticket before I got my wits about me, and I thought he was going to destroy it to prevent me from boarding. But no, he wrote his phone number on it and gave it back to me with an attitude of benevolent generosity. I boarded the bus and thought I have seen the last of him. But no. Weeks later, he boarded the same bus as me. He immediately approached me and casually asked me whether I was going to school. Having my backpack on me and not being used to lying, I said, "I am." He asked me, "Are you going to university?" I gave him an awkward look and I said, "I'm 15. He looked surprised, but not about my age. He thought he gave me a compliment because apparently being older is what every high schooler is craving. I got off the bus next stop, because that's where my school was. He didn't follow me, and another passenger who was overheard a conversation told me, "You shouldn't be talking to men like this." I didn't know what he meant, and he certainly was the same age as that one, so I just mumbled something off, and I went. A week later, the creep stood in front of my school, waiting for me, all dressed up. I've seen him before I walked out the door in chill and went down my spine. I don't know what to do, so I fetched the school director and told him about my encounter. He went out and dealt with the man, and thankfully he must have got the message, because I never met him again. Only years later, I understood he must have stalked me ever since the walk on the bus, probably checked the schedule and rode it for weeks to get another chance encounter, and then deducted where my school was. Most likely, he wanted to manipulate a child into a relationship, since he wasn't able to initiate one with an adult woman, and was convinced he was going to be successful. I was 17 at the time, waiting at a doctor's office, being checked up after surgery. Another patient started talking to me. He was 22. I vividly remember his black spiky hair, blue denim clothes, and a very visible exotropia on one of his eyes, hidden behind thick glasses. He tried to make small talk about, "So, why are you here? What kind of issues do you have?" Stuff like that. I've avoided these questions, but all in all, I didn't mind the conversation. It was his turn before me, so I didn't expect to see him after I'd left the office. But alas, there he was, waiting for me, with a frickin' rose that he probably bought at a hospital kiosk. I was extremely surprised and super uncomfortable as he tried to give me the rose in a waiting room full of patients. I blurted out, let's go outside, and we went. I started saying something like, look, thank you, but... And he got suddenly angry and threw the rose in a trash can and walked away, seemingly pretending not to see me anymore. I didn't stick around for him to change his mind and headed for a bus station. What is it with the bus station and the creeps? As I was waiting for the bus, I heard someone running. It was the blue denim guy. He joined me at the station and just started talking about how I've offended him, and that girls always do that to him. Learning from my previous experience, I've kept my mouth shut and I avoided eye contact, trying to find someone I could join for safety. He kept going on about a girl who pretended to be interested in him, and then revealed it to be a psychological experiment, which is the lamest excuse ever. And at the same time pointing out how hot she was, as if to make me feel like I should be thankful that he's paying attention to me, presumably a less hot girl. I could tell that there was something wrong with him mentally, and while I was annoyed by him and also scared of him, I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Some people are just born like this, and they don't learn at school how not to behave towards romantic interests. He then bluntly asked me to get coffee. I firmly said, no, thank you. And his reaction was totally random. He said, I was looking for someone to start a family with and continue my legacy, and you've clearly wasted my time. And he turned on his heel and walked away, his nose stuck up to the sky. It was a totally bizarre encounter, but there's something else that makes it creepy. Remember how I clearly knew his age? It's not because he told me. It's because I've seen him 2 years later in the news, where they disclosed his age. Apparently, he planted a homemade bomb at McDonald's to somehow get back at a girl who rejected him. This incident occurred in the pre-dawn hours at Red Rocks Amphitheater, west of Denver. For those unfamiliar with it, this famous concert venue is set in the foothills west of Denver, but it's actually owned by the city of Denver itself and is classed as a public park, meaning that unless there's an event, people are free to go in, look around, hike, picnic, whatever, as long as they obey the general park laws, especially the rule against climbing on the rocks, because it's dangerous. Every so often, my friend, in his relentless I can't sleep way, liked to drive out there early and watch the sunrise over the city. So one morning he drove out, parked, and got out of his car and went in and watched the sun come up. As he was walking back to his car, he saw another car, a Jeep, in the parking lot somewhat close to us, with someone standing next to us. He was about 60 or 70 feet away. Now, it's not terribly unusual to find one or two other cars that were weird hours. Kids out late will go there and park. Other early risers like to go jog, walk the dog, etc. But that was not this guy. This guy locked eyes with my friend and started slowly walking towards him. Another important piece of information, my friend always packed a gun when he went out for his early morning walks, so he was concerned by this, but not yet alarmed. Can I help you? He called out to the guy. No response. The guy paused for a second or two, and then resumed his slow, beeline walk. Can I help you? My friend called again. Again, no response, but this time the guy didn't even slow down. Now, my friend is getting concerned. The guy had covered about half the distance between them and still hadn't said a word. My friend put his hand on his coat pocket where his gun was and said in a louder voice, "Stay back, I have a gun." No response, but this made the guy stop, for about 3 seconds. Then a slightly slower advance began again. My friend pulls out the gun and holds it down at his side, saying again, "I have a gun." This stopped the guy, but when he stopped, my friend heard the Jeep start. The guy wasn't alone. The Jeep started up and began slowly advancing towards both of them. My friend is now getting very scared, but he didn't say another word. Instead, he raised the gun off to the side, not actually pointing it in their direction, but clearly indicating that that would be the next step. At that point, the Jeep, which was now pretty close to the creeper guy, stopped. After a long pause, still silent, the guy finally broke eye contact and slowly walked over to the Jeep's passenger side, opened the door, and got in. My friend, rightly fearing being ran down, kept his gun ready, but instead of chancing my friend's aim, the Jeep slowly backed up until it could turn around and leave. My friend then went to his car, checked it for signs of break-in, there were none, and left. I asked him if that stopped him from going out to Red Rocks in the early morning, and he said no. He still did it. He still took his gun. Gun or not, he had more courage than me. Not so much an encounter, but a weird and creepy experience I had today. I got home an hour ago to find my door unlocked. What I found when I walked in has me scared shitless and incredibly confused. First thing I noticed when I walked in was that my couch was moved. Normally sitting in the living room, the couch was replaced by my dining room table in the kitchen. My table is where my couch was. The whole living room was organised, blankets folded, pillows fluffed. Some of my shoes I left in the living room were moved to a corner or into my room. My laptop was also moved into my bedroom from my living room. It gets weirder. I had a case of soda I'd left on the counter, and now all of the cans were in my fridge, and the box was recycled. I'd left dirty dishes in the sink and came to find my sink empty and my dishwasher full. Trash around my kitchen and living room was thrown away too. I went to look at the other rooms. My roommate's bed was made and a little disco light was on and spinning in the middle of his room. His floor was completely clear of clothes and trash. My bed had been made as well. Clothes, shoes and a backpack that had been on my floor were shoved into the closet. A picture was taken off my wall and placed on my pillow. Some crackers I'd been eating were arranged in a heart on my desk. Nothing was missing. My gaming system, TVs, computers, music equipment, even my cash was untouched. I think someone is playing a prank on me, but all my friends have denied it. I know this may sound stupid, but I'm honestly so freaked out right now. Someone entered my house and moved all my stuff around. I don't even know what to do now. I talked to anyone I could think who knows where I live and could have done this. Family, friends, old roommates. Everyone's denied it. Additionally, everyone I talked to seemed very confused and concerned for my safety. Either I'm overlooking someone is lying, or it was a stranger. My roommate left before me work yesterday and was at work until 10:30 p.m. I left for work at 5 p.m. and came home at 9 p.m. to see everything changed. After my roommate got home, we looked around the house more to make super sure nothing was missing and see if we could find any clues. The only thing that I could find that was gone is deodorant. We did find some weird stuff though that makes it feel more like a prank. A PS4 controller was placed on top of the shelf of the kitchen cabinet where we keep chips. Shaving cream from our bathroom was placed on top of a record player in the spare room. Toothpaste was moved from the bathroom counter and tucked away behind some of the stuff under the sink. We also found a pair of sunglasses neither of us have ever seen before. This happened about a year and a half ago, at a park where I lived at the time. This was an area where you were either really close to everyone or a loner. To start off, I like to walk to clear my head. There's a corner store in walking distance I grab coffee at every night I can. I buy my coffee and sit and read my books at a park bench. It doesn't get dark early where I live, so I can stay out for a while if I still want sunlight. I don't live far from the park that I walk to, probably only about 5 minutes away. The first time I saw him was with my friend. I asked if she wanted to meet up at the park and catch up. She said yes, and we headed down. We parked ourselves in a bench in the grass and around golden hour. I specifically remember her silhouette against the sun and wishing I'd brought my camera. We both noticed we had short dark hair. He was a bigger guy but pretty short. We saw him walking up with a plastic bag full of tapes. Fucking tapes. He handed them off to a taller blonde guy. The tall guy said, "Could you be any less fucking subtle?" The short guy said nothing. I remember vividly his unsettling wild smile, then walked in the directions they came. I saw him the next couple of days, doing the same things with different people. A plastic bag with tapes. There's only one time I saw the whole process. I was just walking from the corner store when I saw him putting the tapes into the bag and tying it. A guy walked up to him, handed him a thick envelope full of cash, took the bag, and left the guy with the wide smile. He then stood there counting the money for a couple of minutes before walking away. The last time I saw him before I stopped walking to the park at night was around a week after the first encounter. I was drinking my coffee and reading Silence of the Lambs in the dark using my phone flashlight to see, when this guy plops his sorry ass in the seat next to me. And he smiles. I don't look up for more than 10 seconds. We both say nothing. About 5 minutes pass, it's getting late and my phone is dying, so I get up to leave. He follows me. I start walking home. He keeps following me. There's a fairly busy road before I reach my neighbourhood. Nothing like this has ever happened to me before, so I started to panic. There were cars going pretty fast, so to simplify my very logical thought process at the time, I sprint across the road to try and get away from him. Thank the forces out there it works. I'm not a fast runner and I have a backpack on with my work and books in it. With my thoughts racing and me continuously looking back, I probably would have been better off just walking. I vividly remember seeing his smile one last time in the streetlights reflecting off his teeth. Later on, the corner store burned down and something new opened. I never went back to that park alone. There was no reason to anymore anyways. I've since been diagnosed with agoraphobia. Unrelated. I don't know what the tapes were, or why the hell he charged so much. But I don't think I want to. It was a lovely day. Yesterday, to be exact. My wife turns to me around 6ish and says, "Hey, I'm craving a McFlurry. Can we go to McDonald's?" Now, mind you, I'm a bit blazed. Not totally stoned, but enough to be relaxed and still sane of mind. I didn't want to go, but with my wife's puppy eyes, I simply couldn't resist. So off we go. A bit of backstory about my car, because it is important. I drive a small green boxcar with somewhere around 7 to 10 stickers on it. Mostly they're video game and anime themed, but I have 2 that are vitally important to this story. Mrs. and Mrs. and sorry I missed church, I was practicing witchcraft and becoming a lesbian. I'm fairly certain these 2 stickers are the reason this L&M happened. We pull into the drive-thru, we order our McFlurries and we wait. By this point, we're still at the speaker and waiting for the cars to move up. In comes Staring Lady. Staring Lady pulls in behind us in her white Nissan Frontier, and I notice her staring at my stickers. I know she is because she leans over her steering wheel to get a better look. I'm very much used to this, and it's the kind of reason I put them there. 9 times out of 10 I get a smile or a laugh, sometimes a few pictures. Whether it's because it's cringy or because they like it, I don't care. I made someone smile. Anyways, after she stares at my car for a few minutes, I see her back up and start to pull around. I pay no mind. The line is at a standstill, so I think she got fed up with waiting. It wasn't until my wife goes, is that lady staring?" that I even noticed what was going on. This lady straight up Luigi does. She slowly drove around the cement barrier between drive-thru and pass-thru and stared as she drove past. Whatever, crazy lady, right? Well, she parks at one of the spots near the entrance and idles there. My wife goes, "Wouldn't it be funny if she followed us?" I laughed. Of course it would, because she's crazy enough to do that during the day. 15 minutes passed. We paid for our food now, and we're waiting for the ice cream. And the lady's still there. We finally get our ice cream. At this point, she's been idling at that parking spot for nearly 20 minutes. I, trying to reason with the matter, go, well, maybe she ordered her food and forgot, so she just went around and parked. Sure. Wrong again. As soon as I pull out to the drive-thru, she puts her truck in reverse and starts to follow us. Naturally, I start blurting, "Jesus fuck, you've got to be kidding me. No fucking way, no fucking way." As soon as the guy in front of me waiting for traffic to clear moved, I floored it right behind him, and she was right on my tail. I'm panicking. Who does this in broad daylight in front of dozens of people and cameras? So my driving instincts kick in. I've got the love of my life with me and our baby boy, Atlas, our 2-year-old Dutch Shep. No way am I letting some crazy bitch drive us off the road because she's a homophobic bigot. Not happening. I do a quick turn into a side street. She follows suit. I floor it. She floors it. And damn me if a red light doesn't cut us off. Thankfully, another car pulled into the turn lane beside me. I was in the inner turn lane, so we had 2 cars between us. As soon as the light turned green, I floored it again. This time, I cut in front of the 2 cars that were in front of her. I quickly turned onto the main road that the other 2 cars had been heading towards. I knew if I just got out of line of sight, I'd be in the clear. Thankfully, I was right. I turned onto the main road, glanced in the rearview mirror, and noticed that the car behind me was taking a sweet time turning. Perfect. I take another left onto a random side road, then another left and parked in someone's driveway. And there we sat for roughly 10 minutes while we tried not to cry as our adrenaline melted away, along with our McFlurries. Crazy McDonald's staring lady, please get some help. Edit. Thank you all so much for your kind words and medals. I wasn't expecting this to get much traction. I did get her plate. We wrote it down, just in case. This was way before she started following us because we had a feeling. I honestly wish we recorded it, but A, we weren't actually expecting her to stalk us, and B, my wife was frozen with fear and I just wanted to get the hell away from her. The reason we didn't go to the cops was because I was a bit stoned. It's not legal here unless you have a marijuana card, and I don't have one of those. We called the cops after we got home safe and sound, and my wife recalled the entire event to them. They said they'd keep it in mind and left, aka they didn't give a damn. In 2019, my mother and I went to South Carolina with her friend Astrid. Astrid is a woman in her 30s who had a baby in 2016. Let's just say she has a lot of interesting parenting choices. Her kid David was about 3 at the time of this story. David is loud. If he doesn't get what he wants, he screams. I hesitate to call a child a brat when they're that young, but that's really what he was. I say this because Astrid usually ignores his cries if she can't figure out why he's crying. We planned to go to a museum on this day, and to get there we had to take the bus. The bus was pretty empty, so there's a lot of room to move around. On all vacations with Astrid, I have to watch David for free, so on the bus he sits with me. Things are going pretty okay, until I notice this woman who happens to be sitting across from us. Her hair is matted, her eyes seem to be bulging out of their sockets somewhat, and she's picking sores all over her face and hands. She's muttering to herself and rocking back and forth, and fumbling with something in her bag. I try not to make eye contact with her, but then she shifts her seat. Now she's behind us. She's cooing to David and trying to grab him from behind. I'm starting to get nervous, and David is starting to cry. I tell Astrid the woman is making me uncomfortable. She blows it off and assures me the woman, David, just thinks David is cute, and tells me David is crying because he's bored of the ride. I decide we should all move up a seat, and my group agrees, despite ignoring my fears. The woman moves up a seat, still cooing and grabbing at David. This happens until my group is now at the middle of the bus. At this point, she tries to grip his arm. I tell her to back off loudly. The woman starts screaming that we're trying to steal her baby. This couldn't even look farther from the truth. David is a ginger with the same eyes as Astrid. The woman on the bus looks nothing like him. Astrid also has his baby bag in her lap, and Astrid's mom has his stroller, which he's had this whole time. The bus is pretty full at this point, so we get off a few stops early with the help of some kind people blocking her in her section. She begins to wail and curse us. Safe to say, I do not willingly hang out with Astrid anymore. Look, I just work at a department store, basically designed for old people. The youngest person I've ever seen walk into the place was probably in her 40s, and even then, she was shopping for her mom. I don't get paid much, but the job's no stress when it comes down to it. I check out the occasional old person and help them find things. You can imagine my surprise when a group of college kids started coming in on the regular. The first few times, they were just looking around. The next few times, they were pretending. After that, they were staring right at me from a distance. See, even though they were all around my age, I'm not social by any means. Before I worked here, my schedule was constantly free, if you catch my drift. I don't have many friends, and I have even less people who pay attention to me. The one to approach me was a girl. Beach blonde hair, green eyes, with an obviously expensive charm dangling from her neck. I looked at her, growing nervous. "Hi, how can I help you?" Have you seen this person? She said as she held up a picture. What? It was of a mannequin. Did I mention I work in a department store? I assumed these were probably people from a school near me, trying to make fun of me. I laughed a bit, and the girl stalked off, anxiously looking back at me. Her and her friends came in the next week. The same girl strolled up to the counter. Her hair, which was obviously regularly professionally bleached, was growing back naturally on her roots. She looked like she hadn't slept since I saw her. Have you seen this person? That's a mannequin? I responded uncertainly. You have to have seen it. I showed it to you. She started growing angry. What? Look, I don't want it to get me. If you see this thing, you have to tell someone else about it within the week of spotting it, or else it will get you. Okay? Of course, they were watching me to see if I was a good target for them to annoy. At least, they'd probably stop watching me slack off now. They didn't come back again. I never saw them around the mall again, either. That happened a month ago. You know, your mind is a powerful thing. You don't really remember things until it's painfully obvious you've seen or heard about them somewhere else. It's even harder to connect the dots if the dots you connect make a picture you don't like. I looked at the news yesterday. The woman from the store had gone missing days after our encounter. They found her body in the lake. Today, I came to work like usual. I had to set up some mannequins for a display. I thought nothing of it until tonight. The mannequin I dressed today looked a lot like the picture the girl had shown me a month ago. I heard rustling from outside. It was late at night and my parents weren't going to be home until later. I looked outside. It was the mannequin. She was smiling. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did this to you. I'm sorry I put this curse on you. I probably don't have enough time left, but if I can maybe get this out of there, she'll come after someone else. My car's too busted to even get out of town. I hope you see her soon. I hope she's happy with my sacrifice. I don't want her to visit me again.